Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So much has happened from the last time that I reviewed Love is Blind UK. You guys, I remember in the last episode I was talking about how I was rooting for most of the couples, how I liked Freddie and Catherine. Oh boy, so much has changed. Let's not wait any further. Let's dive into it. So, the couples all hang out with each other, and Catherine talks about hearing this rumor that Ollie told the guys, apparently after they broke up, that he was the one that broke up with her. She makes such a big issue out of it. She's talking to the other couples about it, and then she's like, oh, I have to confront Ollie. I have to confront him and what he said, blah, blah, blah. So she then takes Ollie to a corner, sits down with him, and in a very confrontational manner, kind of confronts him over the alleged rumor, right? And Ollie just says, well, if I don't remember, but if I said that, I'm sorry, that's not true, and basically just said the truth about it, and that was it. From what I remember watching it, the way I think it happened was Ollie was going to break up with Catherine. It was becoming more and more obvious, not just to everybody else, but also to Catherine, because you could see how much she had connected to Demi. I think Catherine didn't want Ollie to break up with her first, and so she went in and kind of made the decision to break up with Ollie, especially because when she had that conversation with him, she could tell from the way he had already started the conversation that that was what he was trying to do. She also claimed it was because she was trying to look out for Demi and she kind of didn't want Demi's feelings to get hurt. I don't believe that. I think it was just mainly because she knew that Ollie was about to break up with her. And that's kind of how the breakup happened. Technically, you can say she broke up with Ollie. In reality, she broke up with him because she knew he was going to break up with her. But the bottom line is, I didn't understand why she made it such an issue. It was like, even talking about it with the other couples, I just found that, what was that about? I didn't understand that, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, because so many other things happened after that I had to be upset about, right? That we all were upset about. So it's like, that ended up being the smallest out of all the things that she did. So fast forward, Demi is a little bit uncomfortable and is feeling insecure because she sees that Catherine and Ollie are talking, and Ollie doesn't necessarily at that point tell her what they talked about and what happened. And then you have her friend Jasmine getting all upset because Ollie didn't go to reassure Demi. Instead, he went to talk to his friend Bobby and all of that. There was a whole situation around that. I honestly don't understand why you find that the other person in the relationship, now usually when you have this public event, whenever someone is talking to another person they dated in the pods, you find the other person feeling a little bit insecure and uncomfortable. I almost feel like if you're really, really sure in what you have and that he chose you or she chose you, shouldn't you kind of just be confident in that and also have confidence in your partner? I think in Demi's situation, I understood that she felt that way probably because they hadn't yet connected strongly outside the pods the way they will eventually do, right? So at that time, they were still a little bit distant. They were still a little bit there was still a disconnect. So I think she didn't know if he was really fully into her or not. And probably she felt like seeing Catherine, this beautiful girl, how is it gonna feel and whatnot. So I kind of understood it, but I just wished it wasn't made such a big deal out of. Also because from the way Ollie was talking to Catherine, you could tell he really had no interest in her. The conversation had nothing to do with, I like you or whatever. No, it was a whole different other type of conversation, which at that point, Demi didn't know. So Freddie and Catherine start to have tensions. Why? Catherine asks Freddie if he has ever cheated, and he was being honest that about 7 years ago that he had cheated. Catherine made a whole big deal out of it, started to be like she doesn't know if she can get over it, and kind of changed towards Freddie. I don't think it was only the cheating, in my opinion. I think she also just wasn't really liking Freddie's personality for her. Like, she seems to me like someone that usually doesn't go for a Freddie in the outside world. And because she's still very much about like the things that she ordinarily likes in a guy and doesn't, like she didn't, like some of the other couples did, like progress to, no, I'm falling in love with this person for who they are and not for those attributes that don't matter. I think she in particular is one of those people that never really progress to that. She didn't find herself really falling for Freddie the way we all expected her to, which was very surprising because Freddie is great. I mean, in terms of looks, he's probably one of the best looking guys in the season, which even Catherine sees, like he's really good looking, but he doesn't have the personality that usually comes with that kind of look. He has a very sweet, jovial personality. Like, he's just not like the kind of guy that I'm sure Catherine is used to. But I do think he is a good type of guy. Like, I feel any woman would be lucky to have him. So I wished she could have removed those expectations that were blinding her and just seen Freddie for who he was and appreciate that, because I think that would have really helped her to not lose out on one of the best guys that came to this season, right? So that's for that. The whole cheating thing was an issue. They were, you could really see the disconnect. She started to treat him in a way that I really didn't like. And I don't think Freddie liked it either. She would belittle him at every opportunity, snap at him, just treat him like he wasn't enough. Freddie started to feel that and sense that, and that kind of made him withdraw. So like the joy of Freddie we were seeing at the beginning, that wasn't the case anymore because he was now becoming very quiet and just very uncomfortable around Catherine. It changed, however, to an extent when Freddie took Catherine to his house, because Freddie has a big, beautiful house. It seems that Freddie is very, he has a lot of money. It seems like his job, his career, being a funeral director, it seems like it's a lucrative business because he seems to be doing really well for himself, especially considering that he's so young. Owning that big house, you could tell that Catherine immediately changed. Like the moment she realized, hold on a minute, it seems like this guy is really, really well put, like financially and all that. All of a sudden her tune started to change. But guess what? I think Freddie noticed that as well, because it's so weird going from not wanting to even hear his voice to all of a sudden planning the wedding more than anyone. It's like she was then looking forward to the wedding, she was this and she was that. So then she was the one kind of trying to pull everything forward and make everything work out. Well, you could see him withdrawing and pulling back and just not really being sure. They then had a conversation in which he said to her that he would want a prenup. But then he also went further to say that he, in case anything happened to him or something like that, that his house would go to his sister. For me, he said that because in his heart of hearts, he knows Catherine isn't the woman for him. Because it makes no sense, right? Why on earth would you say that in case anything happened to you, your house will go to your sister if you really plan to have a family with the woman you're sitting in front of? So what would happen to the family? What would happen to her? What would happen to your future children? The only reason why you would say that is because somewhere deep in your subconscious, you know that you shouldn't go ahead in marrying this woman. And so you're doing and saying things that are kind of going to lead to you not marrying this woman. That's what I saw. But you could tell that Catherine was not happy with that conversation. They went ahead and they met. So I think they met her friends, and then they also met her parents, and they met his parents. So when they met his family, very beautiful family, great. From the conversation he was having with his sister, you could tell, the sister could tell immediately as well, that he wasn't really happy in that relationship and he had so many doubts. And so from what we saw that the sister said, she kind of made him realize, like, if this is how you're feeling, maybe it's because she's not the one for you, and things like that. So that was a moment in which I knew, I think that was when I knew that I didn't believe that Freddie would go ahead and marry Catherine. And then when they met with her friends, he was basically complaining. He was complaining about the situation to the point that one of her friends in the confessional was like, she doesn't think their relationship would work out. When they met with her family again, he was bringing up one or two things that were not really going great. And you could see that her parents liked him. But again, for me, it was just very obvious. He's not into this anymore because of the way Catherine was treating him. You know, it was just too much. Coupled with the fact that they had an event. I can't remember when that event specifically happened, in which Sam came into the event as well. And Catherine kept on talking about how Sam reminds her of her ex. She just kept on going, oh, Sam looks so much like my ex, blah, blah, blah. And that was so disrespectful to Freddie. And I think people like Freddie, they just kind of like take everything in. So starting from how she acted when she saw Sam, disrespectful towards him. How she acted when he told her that he had cheated 7 years ago, which he chose to be honest with her. But she then used that honesty against him and was like, oh, once a cheater, always a cheater, and just started to treat him differently. Then she got upset because he was always joking, and just practically got upset for him being himself. Then she changed her tune when she saw his house. I mean, all of those things together got Freddie to the point where Freddie no longer felt like that was a relationship that he should really take to the altar. But I think there was a side of Freddie that wanted it not to be true. You know how he's like, I really like this person, but I feel like I know better than to make this mistake. That's what I feel like I sensed in that whole situation. I initially started by saying that I really thought they were a beautiful couple. I said this in the last episode. But right now, with everything that I've seen so far, I think that the Freddie and Catherine relationship is not my cup of tea. Neither is it my cup of coffee. Absolutely, they should not even think of going ahead. And this is a typical example of when you think you're ready for something, but you haven't actually prepared yourself to receive it. And I'm talking about Catherine in particular. The mindset with which she went into that show is not the mindset of someone who's truly ready to receive someone that will be good for her, a good partner. She went talking about her lifestyle, her so-called bougie lifestyle, talking about her exes, how sexy, just talking about everything that is supposed to be irrelevant towards finding your person. This for me is like a lesson for all of us as well. Like when you talk about wanting to settle down, wanting to get married, wanting to meet your person, you shouldn't just be talking about wanting to meet your person, but you should be making sure that when you do meet your person, you're ready to receive that person. Because Catherine met someone that is great, but she wasn't ready to receive that person. So it was a wasted opportunity, if you ask me, because I don't see that relationship working out. And I think Catherine was really what ruined it. It would have worked out, it would have been cool. And I'm not saying perfect, but it could have worked out. But she ruined the whole thing because she wasn't ready. I don't even know if she realized she really wasn't ready. So that's it for Catherine and Freddie for now. So Ollie and Demi. Ollie and Demi, among all the other couples, are the ones that struggle the most at the beginning outside of the pods to kind of just get to that point where they're very comfortable with each other. I don't know why. I think it also has to do with personality, because Demi needed to get to that point where she could come out of her own head and not get in her own way. And Ollie also had to get to that point where he really felt like, yeah, this person in front of me is the person that I fell in love with in the pods, and kind of just put the two and two together. So they both needed to do that, right? They were trying to get there, and the other couples, especially the women, so Jasmine, Catherine, Maria, like all of them were basically saying, oh, Demi doesn't look happy. It seems like Ollie is not reassuring her, or whatever it is. There was a scene that happened at one of those events that I literally almost like jumped off my chair. Jasmine had the guts to talk to Ollie and tell Ollie in a very disrespectful way that he needed to reassure Demi that, you know, she was basically trying to imply that he wasn't into Demi. She kept on saying it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly. Like, she kept on saying it over and over again. Well, are you into her? Do you like her? Just say it. Just say it. You know, she just kept on going like that. And then she also said, there was something else that she said. She did practically scream, Demi is an insecure girl. Oh my gosh. Let me ask you a question. What Jasmine did it help the relationship between Ollie and Demi? Or could it have possibly ruined it? That's the part for me that was really annoying. If you're my friend, you have to respect me and you have to respect my relationship. You don't go up to my fiance and tell my fiance that I'm an insecure girl. Oh, and is he sure that he's into me? Like, the way she went about it made it seem to Ollie that Demi was the one that was complaining to her and presenting him badly to her, which she didn't. Demi never did that. Quite the opposite. Demi was always defending Ollie to all the girls. So when that happened, Ollie was so upset, and Demi came over to talk to him, and he was basically like asking Demi, like, what are you telling this girl? Like, what is going on? And he was so upset that he actually ended up leaving the event. Eventually, after the event, they both came to the conclusion that, like, they were kind of trying, they were gonna try and reset once they went to London and just get back to a good place, because obviously all that had happened with Jasmine and all the other girls did not help their relationship. Something interesting that happened at that point, though, was that Demi pointed out that she noticed that Ollie had ADHD, and then he opened up and talked about it, and he was very surprised that she noticed it. I think that was a very vulnerable moment on Ollie's side, but it was also a moment in which he saw just how attentive Demi actually is. I think that was probably something that made him go like, oh wow, this girl over here is really caring, she's really there, she's really like attentive. And I myself was impressed by that, because it's not necessarily very easy to notice just like that, except you really pay close attention. And then kind of just almost sounding so reassuring towards him when he was talking about it and opening up about it. So that was a very beautiful moment that I think also then affected the rest of the relationship as well, because it really kind of just took things from not a very good place to a better place, right? So when they went to London, they got so much closer. I think because they were away from the group, so they could just spend time with each other and enjoy time with each other. Both of them were opening up to each other more. Demi was herself again. She wasn't in her head, and you know, she was just her normal, funny Demi. And Ollie was just Ollie. And it was, when I say just Ollie, like the Ollie that we saw at the beginning that we liked before Jasmine and the other girls felt like attacking him, especially Jasmine, I would say. That Ollie. So it was a really great thing to see. He met her family and they absolutely loved him. He was great with them as well. They had a lot of beautiful moments all through in London. I think something I will say about this relationship is Demi, unlike Catherine, seemed to me someone who really tried to do the work, because she could have let whatever insecurity she felt at the beginning take over her and ruin that relationship, but she didn't. Instead, she decided to use communication, she decided to use patience, all of those things that ended up paying off, because Ollie went from not being so sure because of everything that was happening with Jasmine and the other girls to realizing, wow, this is actually a great partner. She was patient with me through all of this. She was there for me. She reassured me, like, this is someone I really, really respect and love. And that is an example of someone who has done the work as against someone who has not. Again, I have nothing bad to say about anybody in the show. It's a show, but I just gotta give my opinion, so nothing personal here. Next couple, Sabrina and Steven. Sabrina and Steven. Okay, I am really not like, they're probably one of the least interesting couples for me, to be honest. And I'm not saying this as a dig, it just happens sometimes in Love is Blind, where you have some couples that have a lot going on and other ones that it's just like, it's just not TV worthy. I think that their relationship is too good to be true. That's what I think. They seem to be at this honeymoon phase all through. And I'm not talking about having arguments, but at least having real conversations. For example, the fact that she lives all the way in, I think she lives far, I don't know where she lives, but she doesn't live in London. He lives in London, and he's a gym owner. And him moving to wherever she is would mean him leaving his business and maybe starting afresh wherever she is. She leaving where she is would mean her leaving her family and whatever. These are real conversations, and they just keep on pushing the conversation to like a later day, whereas I think they're supposed to have them before getting married. Like, who is going to move where? When are we going to have kids, if at all we're going to have, because she said she's not sure. What is the plan? Like, well, how are we going to do our finances? Like, I'm not hearing real convos from them. And every time something does come up, they don't have a resolution to it. They just push it aside. And that's why I say that it seems too honeymoon phasey. Like, this is not a couple that is really logistically and practically preparing for life together. This is a couple that is just being like, we're in love and that's all that matters. But we all know that that's not how the real world works. Like, all these things will become an issue if you don't get to be on the same page with them now, you know? So I don't really like the way their relationship is going for that reason. When they met her family, ironically, they seem to have the same opinion that I had. Like, this is too honeymoon phasey. Like, her sister said it. It's just, where's all the reality? Where's the logic? Where is the real conversations, you know? So they seem to have my same opinion. So next we have Benaya and Nicole. That's another relationship that I don't know how I feel about. I think for me, I didn't like any of the two choices Nicole had, and that is Benaya and Sam for her. I didn't think they were good for her, quite frankly, for different reasons. When she finally went with Benaya, so she left Sam and met with Benaya and got engaged to Benaya, she didn't really open up fully about all that transpired with Sam, because we were under the impression that basically nothing happened and she just didn't feel anything with him and she broke off everything. But we later discovered that she actually spent time over at his house or so for some days, and apparently like they were actually trying to have a relationship. So I'm not sure exactly what happened before she went to Benaya. But as she goes to Benaya has this habit of always bringing up Sam and making the relationship so much about Sam. I don't understand it. For me, it's like she was talking to Sam in the pods and she was also talking to him. She ended up choosing Sam, but then she decided to choose Benaya. You keep on saying that Sam wasn't there for the right reasons. Well, what does that have to do with you? Because you can't prove it, number one. And number two, now you've got the girl, focus on the girl. Like, why are you focusing on Sam? And every time he brings up Sam, you can see how uncomfortable Nicole is, rightly so. So they go to this party and Sam shows up, the same party that I talked about before. Sam shows up and Nicole wants to talk to Sam because she wants to return the ring and the friendship bracelet or whatever that he gave her. So when she goes there, Sam makes it a point of duty to point out, oh, well, so you remember, like, you came to my house and you wanted me to sleep with you, and because I said no, that's why you broke up with me, like, whatever. Nicole didn't really comment so much on that, but I think Sam was doing it for the cameras. Like, he wanted us at home to know, look at what happened. Now, I will agree that was immature. That was disrespectful towards Nicole. All of the above. I will say though, I think Sam feels used and maybe rejected. I think Sam feels like, did Nicole ever even like him? Like, did she ever even want him? You know, and I asked myself that too, because the way everything went with Sam, she literally rejected Sam the moment she saw him. So it wasn't anything he did. I know that she eventually went to his house, which again, that's also confusing because she saw him and then got into the confession and was like, she made a mistake. So she didn't want to go further with Sam. But then she apparently went to his house and spent some nights there and wanted to sleep with him. So now I'm getting confused. And if I'm getting confused, and I'm sure Sam was confused too, and he will probably be even more confused when he sees that she had already kind of rejected him right from the moment she saw him. Look at it from that perspective. You feel treated badly. And then she just comes and returns the engagement ring like they had nothing. Like what they had was absolutely nothing and it didn't mean anything to her. And I think in that moment, because Sam was acting out of that, his ego being bruised, his feelings being hurt, all of that, he then says what he says to her. So I'm not justifying what he says, but I'm also putting myself in his shoes, and I'm like, I myself was confused, honestly, because did you ever even like Sam? He didn't do anything to you. So you just decided to break up things with him for no reason. It happens, right? But other times that we saw it in other seasons of Love is Blind, when someone broke up an engagement with someone, we usually saw how it got there. So we saw it coming. It usually was not working or something, but this was immediate. So it wasn't about what he did. It was just how she felt, which she's entitled to. But then of course he's going to feel bad about it. He's human. Come on. Benaya, again, I don't understand that dude. Keeps on making everything about Sam, keeps on getting upset, even goes ahead to confront Sam. Tell me what exactly Benaya was confronting Sam about. Tell me. What are you confronting Sam about? Your fiance has returned her engagement ring to his engagement ring to him. You claim that he wasn't there for the right reasons. Your business. You then say, oh, I have to go confront him. And then he goes there and just starts talking trash. Because as far as I'm concerned, what he was saying was stupid. Oh, I don't think you were here for the right reasons. And Sam, rightly so, just goes at him. Sam is like, what? You came for the wrong dude. And then, immaturely, talks about how Nicole wanted to sleep with him. And in my mind, I'm like, that's what you got, Benaya. That's what you got. You went to wake up the sleeping lion. He literally was not looking for your trouble. He didn't say one bad thing against you or about you. All you did all through was talk bad about him, not only to other people in the house, but also to Nicole in the pods. She came back to you, you got engaged to her, and still all you could do was talk about Sam. Get over it. Even if he did come there for the wrong reasons, well, Nicole chose you. She's with you now. She's with Benaya. So get over it. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Sure, he has things to grow from and things to learn, and he has his own issues, and sometimes he did come across as disingenuous. Even to me, he did come across as that. But I'm not going to make my whole engagement about that. Come on. That was ridiculous. Come on. Again, after that, they go and they see his family. His family talks about how hurt Benaya was. What does Benaya do? He brings up Sam again. Oh my goodness, I was so tired. I was like, you're really getting in your own way. But there was something interesting that his family told Nicole, that if I were Nicole, I would take note of. They were like, he likes to live this life where he's never really in one place. He's always kind of just traveling and going. He's not really a stable kind of person in that regard. And, that can be difficult when you're trying to start a family. So they were like, are you okay with that? How do you feel about that? And Nicole didn't mention it in her confessional that she was a little bit concerned about that. I would too, because whatever is going on with the situation with Sam has more to do with Benaya than it has to do with Sam. It triggered something in Benaya. Something got triggered. And for me, what I see when I see that is there needs to be some healing that hasn't taken place. But the problem is that he's projecting the hurt in a way that is affecting his relationship with Nicole. And then coupled with the fact that he struggles with staying in one place, like how is that going to work with the family? So there's so many things. I always say, don't just ignore the red flags because you're in love. Don't do that, especially in Nicole's case that she's been married before. I wouldn't have chosen a Benaya for her. I always said it from the onset. I would not. I maybe would have chosen a Steven for her, but not a Benaya. But, you know, she's with him. Let's see how it goes. I don't really feel right about that couple, but I wouldn't be surprised if they say yes and get married. I would not be surprised. But I wish for better for her, to be honest. And just because he just seems to me like there's a lot going on. One thing I will say about Nicole is no ill intentions, no ill feelings, but I think she's officially the worst dressed Love is Blind contestant that has ever gone. The worst dressed has ever participated in Love is Blind. I don't know what she was wearing, guys. It was ridiculous. It's like, you know when you're not even trying? In her case, it was like she was trying to dress badly. It's not like you're not trying to dress well, but she was making an effort to ensure that she was dressing badly. That's how it came across. That's how it was. And I'm sure that most of you would agree, honestly. Whenever you're going for a reality show, even if you're not fashionable, seek advice from those that are. Help them, have them help you pick outfits, because you're going to be seen and watched by millions of people all over the world. You don't want to be looking a hot mess, for goodness sake. She was looking a hot mess. She was looking like, I don't know how to even describe it. It was horrible. That's just one thing I wanted to add for future people going on Love is Blind. Please make an effort. Do not look like Nicole looked this season. Please don't. Jasmine and Bobby. So their relationship seems to be pretty smooth for the most part, right? I actually really liked Jasmine before she did what she did to Ollie, and I was like, no, I don't like that behavior. I don't like that side of her. Even though it was coming from a good place, it was still wrong. However, I will say something that happened in the relationship that was a little bit concerning was when they met her mom. She had already warned Bobby that her mom could be, she could say hurtful things and she could be very direct and whatnot. But I don't think any one of us was ready for what was to come. Because when she came over to the house, in the first place, he wanted to hug her. She was looking at him like, what are you doing? Like, it was so weird. And then they sat down and they started to talk. And she commented on the fact that he doesn't have an education and said, how are you going to be able to communicate with someone that doesn't have an education? She alluded to the fact that he couldn't afford to live in London. How are you going to move to London with her when obviously you can afford it? She alluded to it. She talked about how she has to be 100% involved in everything about her daughter. Her daughter has to tell her everything. She has to be a part of everything. Therefore, no plans to respect boundaries. She talked about how her daughter is this great person she raised, blah, 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 blah. Which is fair. Every parent thinks that about their kids. But, you know, you also want to acknowledge that this person is also someone's son. And they also feel the same way about him. So maybe you want to give him that little bit of regard, you know. I felt that if I was Bob or Bobby, in that moment, I would have been a little bit apprehensive. Like, is this going to be a problem? Or are we going to be able to create boundaries? Because he definitely got disrespected a whole lot in that meeting. Like, there's a difference between being strict and telling someone how you feel and just being disrespectful. They're two different things. That meeting was disrespectful. Very. And in that moment, I saw where Jasmine got it, because the way she acted towards Ollie was very similar to what happened in that meeting. So it also shows me that Jasmine does have that in her too. She does behave that way. So in my mind, I'm like, is that how Jasmine's gonna act towards Bobby every time she's upset about something? Because if I were Bobby, I'll be concerned about that too. So that for me too was like, red flag, red flag, red flag. Again, is it something that cannot be surpassed? No. But it all comes down to what they agree on. If they are able to create boundaries around that. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, I will say that the relationship seems to be going strong. So let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if they both say yes at the altar and get married. But definitely, I do feel like there's a little bit of a concern there. There's a little bit of a red flag there, you know. That's it for that. But other than that, they're not horrible. They might work out. Tom and Maria. Let me say this, right? I'm in no way surprised at how the relationship is turning out. I predicted it perfectly. First of all, Tom had an emotional connection with Natasha in the pods. But because of whatever, he got in his own way, and he felt like maybe Natasha wasn't going to be his type physically, and decided to go for who he felt he will be attracted to physically. But he didn't have an emotional connection with, and that is Maria. First mistake. They met and he was attracted to her physically, and they had this instant chemistry and they were like all over each other. But that is not enough for a relationship. We all know that. So what has happened? What has happened is they've started to have arguments, and they've started to see how different they are. There's an obvious culture clash. They've had two major arguments we know of. One about makeup, where he basically said, like, if he sees if he met someone and the person said she was a makeup artist, you know, he would feel like the person is shallow. And Maria is a makeup artist, and so she was like, oh, that's stupid, and whatever, and they had an argument about that. And then they went out for, I think, dinner or ice cream, and he didn't pay for her, and she was upset about that. And she was like, in her culture, that would be an embarrassment. And Tom didn't understand why. He was really like taken aback. So he meets Natasha when the couples all met, like the other people that they dated in the pods. And when they met, you could instantly tell, if you ask me, that Tom felt regret, because I think he realized, oh my gosh, she is pretty. I would have liked her. Like, the reason why I didn't pick her isn't even true. You know, it didn't even happen. And then the way she was talking, and she was so sweet, I think it just took Tom back to the pods. It took him back to like the reasons why he fell for her in the first place. She did say that she fell in love with him in the pods. He then went and told Maria that Natasha said she's in love with him in the present tense. And Maria got very upset about that. I don't know why he said it that way, because except I didn't see it right, I think she spoke in the past tense. So I was confused about that. And also, he kind of put everything on Natasha when he was talking to Maria, like making it seem that the conversation was one-sided. But he also was seeming very emotional. Like, I think it was like a conversation between two people that are still very much in love with each other. So while they were having that conversation, Maria comes and drags him out of there, like she has a strong personality. And then eventually he tells her, you know, the whole thing about Natasha saying that she's in love. Maria was very upset about that. And then, just as I mentioned before, they go ahead and they have their arguments. To me, honestly, I do not see their relationship working. I gotta say right now. When they meet her family is very beautiful. I have to say that. But I think, like I said, there's an obvious culture clash, but there's also a disconnect. Tom is 38 with a thriving career and is very much stuck in his ways. He has had certain ways, he has been doing his things for years, and he has no intention to change that. Maria has a very strong personality and is not afraid to tell you what she thinks, even if it's going to hurt your feelings. That alone already tells you that these two people are not going to be compatible. Coupled with the fact that Tom is stingy. Let's call it spade a spade. Why was he even making the whole ice cream thing a big deal? Like, for me, if you're going out with your fiance and who's going to pay for the ice cream is going to be a problem, pay for the ice cream. I mean, I do think he should have paid for it without her even having to say it to him, quite frankly. I do belong to that school of thought. If I'm going out with a guy and he wants me to pay for my side of the bill, I feel like it's going to reflect on how you will be in the relationship, and in that case, in the marriage. I just feel like it's connected, because someone that is very nurturing and has the belief of providing tends to want to provide in those kind of situations. Like, it's not like you cannot afford to buy the ice cream, but I want to do it. But when you're so particular about, no, buy your own dinner, buy your own ice cream, buy this, buy that. In my mind, I'm like, is that how it's going to be all through our marriage? And again, he then mentions something that for me, I find crazy. He says that when they get married, Maria should pay for half of the mortgage. But look at what the problem is. If you want Maria to pay for half of the mortgage, you should put Maria's name on the mortgage. Because Maria rightly said, she doesn't feel comfortable paying for half of the mortgage when it's not her mortgage. And I agree with her 100%. What could work is either of two things. He pays for the mortgage and she pays for maybe some of the bills, depending, or all the bills, depending on how much she makes. Or you put her name on the mortgage as well, and then she can pay half of it. But for me, it comes back to what I'm saying about them being on two different sides of the coin in everything. She has a whole different way of seeing things, while Tom is stuck in his ways, and she is someone that doesn't like to let down. Like, she has a very strong personality, and she's like, nope, this is how it should be, period. So I don't see the relationship working. I don't. Quote me on that. Regardless of whether they get married or not, I don't see that relationship working. That's what I think. No ill wishes. It's just what I think based on what I've seen. So that takes me to the end of this episode. You guys, as usual, don't leave me here to be talking to myself. Go to the comment section. Give me your views, your opinions. Like, share, subscribe. Put on your notifications. Be on the watch out for my next episode, which I'm going to talk about the next few episodes that are going to come out about Love is Blind. Probably by the time you see this episode, they probably have come out already, but I'll be recording it and I'll be posting it. I enjoy doing this kind of videos. I love Love is Blind. I love unscripted TV. You guys know that. So I'm really happy to be doing this and talking about this with you guys who also love it. It's just fun. Thank you so much for being here. Love you guys.